Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. My name is Jessica Lisi, and I am the Partnerships and Events Manager here at DASA. Today, I'm excited to welcome you to our kickoff episode of our Portfolio Management mini-series, 5 Ways to Screw Up Your Portfolio Governance. I am delighted to introduce you to our speaker for today's episode. I would like to welcome Dave van Herpen, who is not only a change consultant, but also the program author for the DASA Portfolio Management Product Suite. Dave has been involved in DASA for a very long time now, and he has helped us develop multiple products. He's been DASA ambassador, and I think he's probably sick of me calling on him to be a speaker. So, with that being said, I would like to welcome our distinguished guest for today. Dave, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I can never get enough of that. Yeah. Welcome, everyone. Glad that you're able to join. So, first step is to share my screen so that I can take you through the whole program. What I want to do is I'd like to share some practices of the implementation of portfolio governance in multiple organizations that I've been involved in. And instead of using good practices or best practices, I've decided to use the other approach to share with you some of the major screw ups. So, what are the things that you shouldn't do when you want to implement a sustainable and dynamic portfolio governance? So, this is just as some kind of reminder if you want to engage in or either optimizing or implementing a portfolio governance in your organization, these might be some lessons that you can learn from. And of course, also here, 5 ways, there might be 10 ways or 15 ways even to screw it up. I just selected a few that I've seen in practice fail, and I should be able to share some learnings with you. So before we dive into the details here, yeah, let me see a little bit about myself. I'm a change consultant, as Jess already said. So I've been always focused on creating higher performance organizations and teams, creating better flow and more value. I'm the lead author for portfolio management, but also for product and experience management. They are intertwined, and especially in implementing portfolio management and the capability around it in organizations. I've had quite some experience in public healthcare, finance, technology, mechanical engineering, several sectors. And most of them around the IT portfolio, but also some around including the business portfolio as well. So trying to share some ideas with you here. First, before we dive into the 5 ways, first let's make sure that we have the context right. And in order to sketch the right context, let's take a much more helicopter view and have a look at the key transformation themes that we have discovered from DASA standpoint. And specifically number 3, it's about wiring the enterprise for flow and value maximization. If we dive into that, we see the part of our portfolio as DASA, which focuses on 3 key areas, which is portfolio management, which is product management, and which is experience management. And they are very much related. So if you talk about your portfolio, but do not have a good way of implementing and measuring the experience of your user as employees, customers, etc., you will miss out on a very important part of actually around the value of your portfolio and your investments. So portfolio management, experience management are very much related. The same goes for product management. So product management and a good implementation of it can really help to drive your portfolio in the right way. Today, we will be focusing on the portfolio part, and the portfolio management framework that we have created in DASA is focused on 3 key processes, which is decide, align, and operate. So you decide on what is most important for your organization regarding your strategic objectives. So what kind of initiatives do you want to do first? Then align on capacity, align on together with your stakeholders, making sure that you have the right prioritization in place, and in the end, making sure that you have your operations in place regarding your portfolio. Not only making sure that you collect metrics around the performance of your portfolio, and around progress, etc., but also making sure that there's continuous alignment and continuous um, collaboration between all of the teams that actually execute all of the work that you decide on in your portfolio strategy and in your portfolio decisions. In portfolio governance, there's three key entities, three key roles that we see that we have identified in DASA. First is the portfolio board, which is all about making the right decisions based on your strategic objectives and providing the right constraints for executing your portfolio decisions. Second is the portfolio manager, which we see as sort of the scrum master of your portfolio. So the portfolio manager is all about creating the right processes and having the right flow in the end, throughout your portfolio process end to end. And the third one is your portfolio office, which helps to find the right insights and to create the right, the administrative functions, etc., but also providing the right templates, making sure that your portfolio process is standardized where possible. So these are the three key major stakeholders, key major roles that we see in a portfolio process. Now, if you look at the portfolio governance, how you actually steer your portfolio, usually we talk about the portfolio of initiatives, and that can be projects, that can be epics, that can be programs, that can be a lot of things. But in all cases, we need to make sure that the first way to actually screw up your portfolio governance is to look at it from a bureaucratic standpoint. So that is a way to actually really make it not very sexy for everyone to participate in. And maybe you recognize this, but in a lot of organizations, the portfolio process is not seen as the most sexy thing to work in. So it is most observed as something that actually distracts energy from the organization. Whereas if you do it in the right way, it should create energy and should create focus and it should create drive and motivate people to do the right things and to actually spend their limited capacity on those things that add the most value. But in real life, in practice, we see that it actually is more seen as a source of unnecessary waste, of more like a burden, time-consuming templates, whereas it should make life easier, simpler, and more effective. So that means that we need to make sure that we focus on the right stuff here and that we prevent the portfolio process from being seen as red tape. Now, there's also some positive patterns that you could actually use here to make sure that you prevent red taping. For instance, making your portfolio events fun. That's one of those good practices that we rarely see. So, don't stick with lists, checklists, or spreadsheets or whatsoever, but for instance, facilitate value bingo. I've seen this in real life, and it really creates a lot of energy in your prioritization process. Together with your business owners, make sure that you actually assign the right elements of value. Use white elephant sizing for prioritization, for instance. So don't go with boring spreadsheets, but do it on a wall. Visual can be a virtual wall as well, but using different techniques to do prioritization in an interactive way. Doing retrospectives as well with your portfolio team or portfolio board, for instance. So do that in a creative or fun way as well. That will all help you to see the portfolio board more as a team and not just an execution of boring processes. And of course, if there's any successes, celebrate them. And if there's any failures, celebrate them as well. Because if all goes well and if you learn from it, it can be a very good source for further improvement. So the first way to screw up your portfolio governance is by red taping it. The second way to screw up your portfolio governance is by hybridize capacity allocation, meaning that you have multiple ways of actually allocating the capacity in a certain area. So if we talk, for instance, about IT and IT capacity, what I've seen too much is that we both want to move people to the work and we want to move work to the people. That means that we want to create long-lasting product teams who take care of the full product lifecycle, who do you build it, you run it, so who are actually able to take full responsibility for the products that they develop and also maintain. And at the same time, we pick out people from those teams because we want to allocate them to a temporary project. So you have multiple ways of actually dealing with your capacity allocation. And this will really make sure that people will be the main victims here. And it will cause stress, it will burn out people as well. There's unclarity, which priorities should we follow, which masters should we actually look at, so which captains are steering our ship. And it will also create a lot of inefficiency because you have multiple ways of allocating the limited team capacity that you have. Also here, there might be positive patterns. So what you could do is, for instance, make sure that you have C-level support to bring work to the people. So decide on one. If you decide to bring work to the people, which could be long-lasting product teams, and you want to bring work towards them, make sure that you have C-level support for this, that they clearly state that they actually carry out the principles, that they show example behavior, and that they don't pick, as CIO or whatever, they don't pick two people from your team because they have a very important special project for them to take care of. Example behavior is really important here. And also, what you could do instead of using projects, you could also bring problems to solve to the teams instead of giving them detailed tasks and plans. If you have projects, if you still use projects, very legit, very in a lot of cases, a very legitimate way to actually get work done. Try to actually, instead of getting people out of the teams for your temporary projects, try to define what you want to get out of the teams, bring the work to the teams then, and let them figure out how to build it, and they will give you the value you need for your project. The third way to screw up your portfolio governance is to avoid conflict. Now, the portfolio management is a lot of things, but mostly it's about helping to choose from a strategic standpoint, and it's also about connecting virtual kingdoms. And what we see generally in a portfolio board, which consists of multiple stakeholders from the business, sometimes also from IT, but those should be people from the business who have actually something to say and have a stake in decision making. Also, this portfolio board should not be just a few people, being together in a meeting every now and then, but they also should be a team. They should also hold each other accountable if someone has undesired behaviors and showing things that actually hinder the team, the portfolio team or the portfolio board as a team, from achieving their goal. They should also encourage each other to learn and improve continuously. So a positive pattern here could be create a real team for your portfolio decision-making processes. So create a multidisciplinary portfolio board, a diverse portfolio board, a mandated portfolio board, an open portfolio board. So make sure that all of those things that we apply to a team, a product team, also apply them to the portfolio level, to a portfolio team who's deciding on those things that need to be done first from a business and strategy perspective. And then when you actually are creating a team out of it, try to think of agreeing on desired behaviors with the team. So you have a portfolio board and you agree with each other what are the behaviors that we need from each other to actually be a successful portfolio board, create a code of conduct out of it. So actually to select 3 behaviors that you want to see and keep on reflecting them in the meetings that you have. So if you have, for instance, a monthly portfolio sync or whatsoever, make sure you do not only talk about content and about progress, but also talk about the behaviors that you've seen from your colleagues in the portfolio board. Did you see the right behaviors? If yes, perfect. After a few months, you can delete them from the list. You can select new behaviors. If you haven't seen them, why not? What's hindering you from actually showing the collaborative behavior that we need as a portfolio board? Are you only protecting your own island, or are we seeing the right behaviors? So that's another topic that I rarely see discussed on a portfolio board level, but can really help the portfolio board to act as a team. The 4th way to screw up your portfolio governance is to encourage value inflation. And value inflation, I think you may have some idea what this is leading towards. It is that at the beginning of a process, at the beginning of actually estimating what is my business case, what is the initiative all about, what are the benefits that it should actually bring, what are the costs related to it, etc. A business case is crucial to actually assist data-driven decision making. Now, what happens if you don't track the actual benefits in real life is, and you don't, reinforce that, is that you get value inflation upfront. So everyone will make sure that the business case is loaded with fantastic benefits because we don't measure the benefits in real life anyway. And if we measure them, we don't hold each other accountable for maybe the results that we didn't make, but that we promised up front. And this is a really essential feedback loop in portfolio management. And if you don't do this, if you don't track your benefits, there's one thing that you will be sure of, and that all of the projects, all of your initiatives, all of your epics whatsoever, they will be fantastic promises up front. But there will be a really small value delivered at the end. Now, a positive pattern to deal with this could be that you actually use a business value framework. So I've seen in practice that one of the key reasons why it's kind of hard to measure value upfront, but also to track benefits afterwards, is that we don't usually compare apples to apples. We compare apples to pears. So one project or one initiative is creating a real financial benefit, and the other one is creating more a political benefit or a social benefit or a benefit to actually attract more people from the market as employees or as talent or whatsoever. And those are really different types of value that you can create for your organization. And if you're unable to compare them upfront and unable to measure them afterwards, you will have a hard time actually to make these things tangible, which means that it will remain fluffy and it will, you will not be able to actually compare the different types of value with each other. So that could be a positive pattern to break through this. And the other one I've seen in practice as well is what an organization called the promise and the proof. And that's, you can make a promise upfront in your business case, for instance, but only if you actually provide the proof afterwards, where also the financial controllers were involved, making sure that whatever you promise upfront, you have a measurement in place to make sure that you provide evidence when trying to close an initiative, whether actually the value you wanted to deliver is actually being delivered, yes or no. And the 5th way to screw up your portfolio governance is to multiply the number of portfolios. So organizations have sort of a natural tendency to create multiple portfolios in the enterprise, especially if you talk about large enterprises. I've seen organizations who have tens of portfolios. So the more portfolios you have, the more supervision you need. So for instance, if we look at the DevOps area, we all think containers are really important in providing stable infrastructures. But if you have a lot of containers, you need a lot of orchestration as well. The same here, if you have a lot of portfolios, you will have a lot of dependencies between those portfolios, which need to be managed. Um, and you can imagine the more portfolios you have, the less strategic relevance those portfolios at itself will have as well. And there's one person that taught me in the past that taught me, if you want to know if portfolio management is being done, check if the CEO is in the room. And I think that's a really important thing to remind yourself. Is it strategic work that we're doing, or are we just doing administrative checklists that actually strategy and C-level doesn't really care about? Then you're not doing portfolio management. In addition, it would be really important, if you have one portfolio, to have a balanced portfolio. That means that don't have one portfolio for long-term stuff, one portfolio for short-term stuff, or one portfolio for new business demand and one portfolio for life cycle stuff. Don't do this. Try to have one portfolio which scans all of those horizons and which integrates those multiple perspectives. Now, you could have a look at it. If you want to know some positive patterns, that could be to have one portfolio um, that should be standard. And only if you really are unable to fit everything within one portfolio, ask for real strong arguments to create a second one. But by default, try to start with one. And also, what could help is to actually measure your flow times of the initiatives continuously and meticulously, um, and visualize them on your portfolio dashboard continuously, um, so that you make sure that flow times are most important. And having multiple dependencies will decrease your flow time. So having multiple portfolios, almost in all cases, will reduce the flow times and will hinder your fast feedback. So these were a number of ways to actually screw up your portfolio governance. So if you really want to screw it up, start red taping it, start hybridizing your capacity allocation, try to avoid conflict as much as possible, don't feed it. Encourage value inflation upfront, so make it big, upfront, and don't check whether benefits are realized, and have as much portfolios as you would like. That would be a great way to screw it up, actually. I hope I haven't just shown you how to screw it up. I hope I also gave you some practices to actually deal with this, and some positive patterns as well. If you want to know more about portfolio management and how to deal with this, we have created a portfolio management suite, which does not only consist a 2-day certification program to actually dive into the portfolio management capability. We also have a value box, which has some really interesting instruments, and some of them I just covered. So, for instance, if you look at the portfolio board behavior workshop, it gives you some real tangible instruments and examples and tools to, together with your portfolio board, start talking about behavior and the behavior you need as a portfolio board to actually start working as a team. Um, so, and there's multiple other instruments that you can use from the value box as well. If you want to have some more information, please reach out to any one of us at DASA.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dave. I think that was a very valuable presentation on how to not screw up your portfolio management governance. Excuse me. So we're going to open up the floor to Q&A. Please, if you put your questions in the comments section of LinkedIn, and we will get to them. But I had a couple right off the bat. So when you're implementing this portfolio management strategy, or perhaps even bringing in, like, developing the team itself, what is the culture like that needs to be in place to allow this to flourish? How would that look?
So, what would a successful portfolio board culture,
Yes,
portfolio team culture look like?
correct.
So, of course, first you end up with some real basic stuff like
Mhm,
ownership and collaboration, and actually also things like being able to listen very well.
mhm,
So not only making sure that the other persons hear your standpoint, but actually really listen to other standpoints as well. Because in the end, one of the critical things as a portfolio board you need to do together is to
mhm,
make decisions across the entire portfolio. That also means that you, as a business representative, let's say you're a business owner from a certain department, that you're not only putting in your own stakes and your own interests, but you actually listen to the overall goals that you need to achieve, and
mhm.
try to step across your own lines and think of the whole, think of the entire value of the organization. And that's typically one of those elements of a collaborative culture that is a bit more tangible that we want to have here. But in all of those things, actually, all of those things we want to see in a DevOps team, all of those things we want to see also in a product team and in a power product team, etc., etc. We also want to see that in a portfolio board.
Excellent. This actually reminds me to throw back all the way to May. We did for DASA Connect 2024 the portfolio governance workshop, and I remember you had people point out what would you think are behaviors that a portfolio board should have. And I remember accountability was a huge one, listening skills, um, and it's really great to kind of see that these lessons come back, that you need these skills to really, you need your
Yeah.
portfolio board to really have these skills in place to
and
flourish.
and also probably ownership. It's also one of those
Yes.
container terms. But if you look at what does it mean to actually show ownership as a portfolio board, it also means that if you decide as a group that you want to do some initiatives, which also means that you will not do some other initiatives,
Right.
because you need to decide, and you cannot do everything all at once. It
Mhm.
also means that you need sort of a joint voice towards the organization, that you all support the decisions you made, and not go to your own teams and say, well, this was not my decision, but we just had to comply with it, etc. So that's typically behavior we do see in real life every now and then.
Mm.
But a real effective portfolio board would have one voice also towards the rest of the organization.
Exactly. Yeah, you mentioned that territorialism of that you need to avoid.
Yeah.
Um, Excellent. We just got a question coming in from Marion. What first steps would you recommend in the first 30 days of taking over a new role as a portfolio management? So newly established and new for the person stepping
Oh,
in.
um,
Sounds very specific, Marion.
that's a very good question. And actually, but this goes for a lot of roles. The first thing you do when you step in is you look around. Huh? Um, and whether you're an engineer or a product owner or a consultant or a coach or whatsoever, you need to look around. And one of the most important tasks you have as a portfolio manager is to make sure that you have a fluid end-to-end portfolio process, that it runs smoothly. And to be honest, there's never a portfolio process that runs perfectly 100% smooth. So there will always be bottlenecks. There will always be, those things that won't make it smooth. So I would say the first 30 days is, of course, the first 2 days you go to the training, and then when you've done this, you look around, you see, what does the portfolio look like, and you observe the process, how it works right now. If there's no process whatsoever, you need to make it from scratch, of course. I understand that. So you need to start designing the portfolio process. But in all cases, virtually all cases, there will be some kind of implicit or explicit decision-making process in place across teams or across projects or across programs or whatever. So the first thing you do is you observe and you see what's going wrong, and you check those things that form currently the top bottleneck, and you fix those first. So, and by fixing those first, you get to know the real stakeholders. You get to know, and where else can we improve? You get to know the contents of the portfolio as well. So you will dive into that, by doing. So learning by doing, I would say.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dave, for that really great response. It is tough when you're in that first, you know, a lot of organizations we're noticing are just implementing portfolio management. So it's new across a lot of organizations. And so not only are you, you know, stepping into a new role in general, but um but it is it needs to be a lot in place for these enterprises to also successfully kickstart that portfolio management. So,
Yeah, and and
but
and and of course, when you just start, you also dive into the tooling, right? So, but I wanted to do that last and not start with tooling first, because that doesn't make sense. So it should be about what are the key objectives of the portfolio process, and then you look at the process itself, and then you start looking at what kind of tooling do we use, and do we want to optimize tooling, or should we use some workflow tooling to actually facilitate the decision making towards the teams? Should we use tooling to actually visualize metrics and performance of our portfolio flow? And so there will be tools that you will find out and that you will optimize on the go, but I shouldn't start with that.
no, thank you, Dave. I think that's a really, really solid overview. And also to respond to Marion, and to give everyone else a Merry Christmas. Thank you for the feedback. So I'm going to pop this on the screen for the last couple minutes. And I want to again thank you, Dave, for your incredible insights on not only the impact of good portfolio management processes, but also the common pitfalls that a lot of enterprises face with their portfolio governance, either new or legacy based. You know, I was actually talking to Dave before the episode started on how we have other mini series going on, such as our platform engineering series and our experience management series. And in many of the episodes, one of the key points that the speakers make is that teams need to align around a roadmap, whether it's the experience, platform engineers, or other teams involved, development operations, etc. But they need to align around this roadmap and measure that impact. And usually at the end of those episodes, I bring up, how do you develop that roadmap? How do you align around that roadmap? And you need that good portfolio governance to build and define the roadmap, develop and implement that strategy, and identify the metrics that these teams will use to measure. And they bring in that collaboration with other teams for a cohesive ecosystem. That the portfolio board is real. They're I don't want to say beacon, but they are the drivers of that collaboration as well, to make sure that everyone's on that same page. And so with that, I wanted to highlight some key takeaways, such as recognizing and eliminating red tape that stifles innovation, making sure you avoid that for good portfolio governance. Avoid hybrid approaches to capacity allocation, which that confuses priorities. Foster that portfolio board culture of collaboration rather than territorialism, and effective portfolio governance. Oh, try saying that 5 times fast. Effective portfolio governance is about implementing and measuring impact with your portfolio and investments, and developing that strategic approach. Something that every enterprise needs, no matter what industry you are in. So, if you were inspired by today's topic and you want to learn more about portfolio management, we encourage you to check out the DASA Portfolio Management Certification Program and Product Suite. You can find more information about this on our website at dasa.org, or access the direct link to the product suite in the comments. Thank you again, everyone, for joining. Our next episode will be on January 7th at 4 o'clock Central European Time. The topic will be on OBEA with portfolio management. So that's a really interesting way to look at how else you can kind of navigate and manage your portfolio management with your Meyer. And with that, I want to say Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. And thank you again for joining. We'll see you in the new year.
Bye-bye.